Okay, welcome everybody. The forum that we're going to be following tonight, we're going to have three separate forums. The first is for the 359th District Court here in Montgomery County, and the candidates are Michael Ghutzman and Ann Linzer. The format we'll follow is each candidate will have 2 minutes to make an opening, 2 minutes to make a closing, and in between that, we will have questions in an alternating fashion on who goes first. The questions I will read, but these are not my questions. I'm reading questions that were submitted on these cards. If there are some that are very closely related, I may combine those just to keep it flowing. So y'all welcome the two candidates, Michael Ghutzman and Ann Linzer, please. All right, we're going to be generally going in alphabetical order for the opening statements. So, Mr. Ghutzman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kent, and thank you everyone for being here tonight. This stuff matters, and voters matter, and people that come out and they learn about these candidates make informed decisions, and that's what we need here in Montgomery County. My name is Michael Ghutzman. I'm a chief prosecutor at the Montgomery County District Attorney's Office. I'm the chief of the Major Crime Section. I'm also board certified in criminal law, and I'm looking to be your next judge of the 359th District Court. Let me tell you why. The 359th District Court is a criminal court. It handles criminal felonies, some of our most important crimes, all the way from low-level drug cases to capital murder. You need someone as your next judge in the 359th District Court that has relevant experience and current experience, and I have both. I have some great support in my race. I am honored to have the support of law enforcement. I have an endorsement from your former district attorney, Brett Ligon. I have endorsements from two former Montgomery County sheriffs. I have endorsements from the Houston Police Officers Union and their 5,300 members. I have endorsements from the 28,000 members of the Combined Law Enforcement Associations of Texas, the Coalition of Police and Sheriffs, and as of today, the Montgomery County Law Enforcement Association. I am the consensus law enforcement choice to be the next judge in this race. I am also honored to have endorsements from 10 police chiefs in this county, people that are working hard every day to keep you safe. Ladies and gentlemen, that's me, that's what I've done professionally, but I also want you to know who I am as a person. Maybe my best endorsement is my wife, Brittany, who is the mother of my 5 children, who's here today. Thank you, honey, for being here. You don't get to the right of me. I practice what you preach. I believe in limited government. I believe that judges should apply the law, not decide it. I believe in our Second Amendment rights. And I'm asking you humbly for your vote to be the next judge of the 359th. Thank you.
Ms. Linzer?
Thank you. My name is Ann Linzer, and I'm running to be judge of the 359th District Court because experience truly matters when public safety is on the line. I have spent over 2 decades in criminal law. I have stood with victims. I've stood next to the accused. I've stood in front of a jury over 120 times. I've handled tens of thousands of cases, from traffic tickets to capital murder. I have trained prosecutors, supervised lawyers, and in addition to running my own practice, I currently teach new future lawyers at Baylor University School of Law. When I say this, I mean it. I'm the only candidate who is ready to start day one. I bring the experience of being board certified for more than a decade. I bring 10 years of experience from the corporate world. I bring being a lawyer for almost a quarter of a century. I have been able to work with young lawyers. I've been able to work in courtrooms across the state of Texas. I served as a prosecutor for 18 years. I've been a defense lawyer for 5. That makes me fair, that makes me balanced. I'm the only candidate ready to start day 1. The 359th District Court needs experience, balance, and steady leadership. That's what I offer. I would love to earn your support. Thank you.
All right, because we're alternating the order, the first question, Ms. Linzer, you'll start first. With respect to criminal offenses, what is your view on alternatives to fines and jail, such as community service?
Well, one thing that I've learned over the years is not every case is the same. But in a criminal district court, you're dealing with felony cases. And what that means is that these are the most serious of the cases that come before a judge in the 359th District Court. So just simple community service to deal with a case in that kind of a court probably would not be something that we would do. But there are great alternatives in our office or in our courthouse. The district attorney's office, in their wisdom, has helped to create some alternatives to prosecution, such as the Veterans Court. So individuals who have been veterans and because of their service, maybe suffer from PTSD or have an issue that they need help with in order to rehabilitate them so that we can keep them from reoffending. And they have a great process that someone will go through to determine if they meet the qualifications to participate in that court. That has been a very successful program to give veterans the resources that they need to deal with the trauma of fighting for our country so that they don't end up in a position where they reoffend. I believe programs such as the Veterans Court are good alternatives. But trust me when I say that in Montgomery County, if someone commits a crime and it is a heinous crime, it's an aggressive crime, it's an assaultive crime, it's a drug crime, we're gonna take that punishment seriously. And so there needs to be some balance, there needs to be some temperament, and you need a judge that can look at every case from different angles and look at the people who are in front of them differently with their own history and their own case, not treat everyone the same. Thanks.
Mr. Ghutzman, I'll repeat the question. With respect to criminal offenses, what is your view on alternatives to fine or jail, such as community service?
Well, it's a good question because we do have alternatives in appropriate cases. It is a standard condition, in fact, of probation to do community service. And it doesn't matter whether you do a theft or you do a low-level drug offense or you do a criminal mischief, which is where you break something. When we have youthful offenders that deserve second chances, we often employ community supervision and deferred adjudication in those cases, which is a standard offer from the district attorney's office. And when you're on community supervision, it is important to us and our district attorney, Mike Holly, that an offender goes back and serves the community to try to repair some of the wrong that's been done. And on a typical case like a state jail felony, which would be less than a gram of narcotics, or on a case where you have someone that's stolen, maybe a first-time offender, over $2,500, prison isn't necessarily the first choice. If they have an opportunity to go back into our community and pay restitution to the victim and do community service, it makes Montgomery County a better place. The 359th District Court is maybe one of the best examples of using alternative sentencing options because the 359th does have the Veterans Court. The 359th has DWI Court. We're trying to get to the root cause of some of those problems, and so things like community service, things like rehabilitative programs, things like electronic monitoring for alcohol and controlled substances are typically alternatives that we would employ in cases where prison isn't the right first choice, and I'm committed to continuing to do that as your next judge.
All right, Mr. Ghutzman, and we'll start with you on the next question. Apart from your judicial qualifications, why are you the best Republican for this position?
Well, I talked a little bit about that in my opening statement, but what I would ask each and every one of you to do is to consider our professional qualifications, but you should also consider our values. When you go to the ballot box, one of the things that you do as Republicans is you vote your values. That's why Montgomery County is such a great place. You don't get to the right of me. I am pro-life. I am pro-Second Amendment. I believe in limited government. I absolutely believe that the Constitution says what it means and it means what it says. I don't believe in legislating from the bench, and let me tell you why. I've seen what happens when the worst comes about. I started my career at the Harris County District Attorney's Office. I was hired by a Republican, Devin Anderson, and I can tell you firsthand what it looks like when the wheels come off the bus. When the Democrat defense attorneys took over, almost overnight, you could tell that a professional and competent criminal justice system that existed to our south started to deteriorate. And the second order effects of that means that people in that community suffer, and it's often the people with the least. That experience left a scar on my heart, and I can promise you that I didn't have it on the dance card for the end of 2025 and the beginning of 2026 to run for district court judge. But I felt that it was incumbent upon me to continue to serve and to ask you for the opportunity to let me serve in this capacity so I can make sure when I go to work every day that that never happens here.
Okay, Ms. Linzer, apart from your judicial qualifications, why are you the best Republican for this position?
It has been on my heart to run for judge of the 359th District Court for a very long time. And that is because I've grown up in this community. I went to high school at McCullough back when it was a high school, for those of you who may remember, back in the 80s when we didn't have a mall. I grew up here. I appreciate the values of this community. And I have worked since being a member of this community for the Republican Party. I have served on committees. I have worked at polls. I have participated in the party's golf tournament. I've done things to make sure that our party stayed strong, and that was well before I ever decided to run for judge. I grew up here. I was baptized here. I met my husband here. This community means a lot to me. My grandkids are growing up here. I want to make sure that we do continue to keep a very strong and conservative value in our community, a Christian-based value in our community. And I believe that not only my experience as a Republican, but as a member of my church and as a member of so many charitable organizations that I've worked with, such as Family Promise of Montgomery County and the Big Mac Club that we founded to raise money for local charities, has gone into making sure that our community stays strong and that we take care of the people who share these Republican values. Thanks.
All right, Ms. Linzer, you're up first on the next question, which is, name the rights listed in the First Amendment and the Bill of Rights, and how would you protect these?
Freedom of speech. As a judge in the criminal district court, everyone has an opportunity to come to the courtroom. Everyone has an opportunity to have their day in court when they're charged with a crime. But the criminal district court in Montgomery County is for those who are accused of a crime and for the state who represents the community. And I believe that being the type of judge that would be fair, who would allow everyone their opportunity to have a day in court, who would make sure that they were available, to make sure that the court was open, to make sure that the people who are victims are taken care of, making sure that our cases go the way that they're supposed to. And I say that with hesitation because the wheels of justice turn slow in the criminal world. That's just the way it works. But when you make sure that you run an efficient court, then you ensure that everyone has the right to be there and to be heard. And so as a judge in the court, I would protect the Constitution. I would make sure that I ruled consistent with the Constitution. It is not my goal to change the law from the bench. It is not my goal to rule against the law. It is always my obligation as a judge to rule with the law, not to change it from the bench. And so that's what I would do to make sure that I protect the Constitution.
All right, Mr. Ghutzman, same question. Name the rights listed in the First Amendment in the Bill of Rights, and how would you protect these?
That's the freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of religion. And Kent, as you well know, we're not often dealing with the First Amendment in a criminal district court. We're dealing with the Fourth Amendment and others. But the First Amendment is vital, and there's a reason why the founders put it first. The government does not have the right to silence free speech. And what you're seeing tonight is an expression of free speech, and free speech will always be welcome in the 359th District Court. I can tell you that our constitutional rights are sacred to me. As a prosecutor, many people often think that we are on the offensive side of the battle, and they see the sword, but they don't often see the shield. And as a prosecutor, I can tell you, and as an aggressive prosecutor, that really means two things. One, you can separate somebody from this community for a long, long time. And the other, though, means that you can show up with a dismissal on day one when you feel like someone's constitutional rights have been infringed. And I have done that as a prosecutor. I've done that my entire career, and I will continue to do that as the next judge of the 359th.
All right, Mr. Ghutzman, you're first on the next one, which is, what is one guiding Bible verse that represents God's call on your life to run for this position?
Psalm 27, the Lord is my salvation and my light, whom shall I fear? And I carry that with me. I carry that with St. Michael's prayer with me every day that I go to the office. This is not a job for me. This is a calling. This run for judge for me is a calling. I have always been 100% committed to criminal justice. I'm the only candidate in the race that can say that. I've got family. My mom and dad are small business owners in Houston. They've had a courier and freight company in the city since 1979. My brother's a family lawyer. My middle brother's in real estate. But the greater Houston area has been so great to my family that I felt compelled to give back. And one of the best ways that I felt that I could give back is to protect my community and to go after those that would seek to do harm to people that are living their lives in God's way, working, engaging in commerce, growing families, having fun. Those are the people that I seek to protect. And, when I started my career in Harris County, as kind of a Houston guy, that was kind of the flagship office. That was where Brett Ligon started his career. And when I came up here, and I went to Montgomery High School, so coming to the Montgomery County District Attorney's Office was like coming back home. It was the best move of my life. My wife and I both decided that's where we wanted to live, to raise our family. That's where I wanted to work, because I knew that I was going to an office that had the foundation of conservative values and that would allow me to make decisions as a prosecutor to ensure public safety, to make sure that violent offenders were kept away from the rest of us, to make sure that repeat offenders got separated from this community when they needed to. Brett Ligon has always given me the tools as a prosecutor. My colleague continues to give me those tools. I am asking you to let me serve in a different capacity because I know how important it is to have good judges.
All right, Ms. Linzer, what is one guiding Bible verse that represents God's call on your life to run for this position?
That's such an easy question. It's Philippians 4:6. Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Ask God for what you need and thank him for what he's done. The reason that that's an easy question is that's the way I was raised. My parents raised us in the church. That was my mom's favorite Bible verse. My parents both passed 5 years ago during COVID. And when we had my mom's service, it was really important to myself, my sister, my brother, that we included that as part of the service because she lived that way. And the reason that I feel like it has affected me in my career is when you take a leap of faith and you decide after 10 years in the corporate world to change direction and go to law school, it feels like, is that the best thing to do? But I had to pray and say, if that's what you're calling me to do, I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm gonna have faith. And I did. And right out of law school, I was given the opportunity to work in the Attorney General's office in law enforcement defense. And it was so perfect because my brother was a law enforcement officer and then a DEA agent. And so it felt like God was letting me know that I had followed the right path. During my career, I've been able to work at the Tarrant County District Attorney's Office, which is the biggest district attorney's office in the state of Texas. I then came to the Special Prosecution Unit, where I handled civil commitment of sexually violent predator cases and was there recruited by Brett Ligon to the DA's office in Montgomery County. I say all that to say this. God put me on this path, and he put great people in my path. He gave me experiences that led me to where I am today, and it led me to run for this bench.
Ms. Linzer, you're still up. First on the next question, and it's a kind of a combination of things that are related. How much of your campaign funding comes within your district? Who are your top donors, and what percentage of your funding comes from individual contributions that are like under 500 versus large PACs or large donors or PACs?
As many of you may know, today our financial reports were due, so I know some of this information. One of the things I can tell you is I don't have funding from a PAC. I don't have that. My funding comes from grassroots. It's pretty incredible when your friends and your family, people that you've met along the way, believe in you so much that they take their hard-earned money and they invest in your campaign. I have a large group of friends here tonight who have all done that. And it's touching to my heart. Judicial candidates can only accept $2,500 per person. So we don't have the ability to accept very large donations. My husband and I invested $15,000 of our own money into my campaign because we believe in this, and we believe that this is where I'm supposed to be. But the rest of the money that I have raised has come from individuals like all of you here tonight that met me and decided, I want to get behind this race. And so when it comes to my campaign management, you'll be able to go and look at that on the Texas Ethics Commission website, and you'll be able to see where the donations come from. But the majority of my donations are small, but they are mighty. Thanks.
Mr. Ghutzman, same question. How much of your campaign funding comes from within the district? Who are your top donors, and what percentage of your funding comes from individual contributions under $500 as opposed to large donors or PACs?
Thank you for the question. I can tell you the only PAC money that I've raised has come from the Houston Police Officers Union, and I am proud to have their endorsement, and they wrote me a check for $500, and I was glad to receive it on behalf of the 5,300 members of that organization. I've had great cases with them. I've worked with the Houston Police for a long time, and I'm very proud of their support. Most of my funding has come from not only within Montgomery County, but the greater Houston area. And I can tell you what's interesting about that is that I have been very blessed in this campaign to have a lot of support. I had people that are in Montgomery County that I've known since high school that care about keeping this community safe. And I've had checks written all the way from $2,500 to $25,000. And I'm happy to receive every dollar to put that money to work to get the word out to keep this community safe. But I'm also happy to have received money from business owners in Houston. And You might think that's odd why someone from Houston or Harris County might give money to a judicial candidate in Montgomery County, but let me tell you why. Many of the business owners that I've grown up with, many of the business owners that have cared about this race, don't want to see what happened in Harris County happen here. They want somebody in Montgomery County with conservative values. They want somebody with an excellent prosecutorial track record, and they want somebody that is committed to keeping this community safe, not just by words, but by action.
Mr. Ghutzman, you're first on our final question, which is, do you have a spiritual gift? And if so, how will you use it if elected?
I have some pretty significant trial experience. I have tried offenders from everything from drug cases to forgeries to violent crimes to the worst child sex offenders that you can possibly imagine. I've also done internet crimes against children work, which is proactive, which is some of the best work that we do in this county to make sure that we're stopping those offenders before they have an opportunity to harm a child. And I can tell you that before I go to trial, before jury selection, every single time without fail, I recite the St. Michael's prayer. I'll continue to do that as a judge. I think that when the state has the evidence, that a judge is obligated to protect this community. I think that a judge should be faithful to the law and not necessarily law enforcement. I think that a judge is obligated to be fair. I think that a judge should rule with compassion, integrity, and respect in every decision that's made. And, you know, ladies and gentlemen, it's not a prerequisite to be a judge to have been a defense attorney before. As a matter of fact, one of our best judges in the building, Phil Grant, has never been a defense attorney. Kathleen Hamilton, the current judge of the 359th, has never been a defense attorney. Give me this opportunity to do for you as the judge of the 359th what I have done for you as a prosecutor my entire career. And that's to rule with compassion, integrity, and respect. And that's not just compassion for the criminal defendant. That's compassion for victims too.
Ms. Linzer, do you have a spiritual gift? And if so, how will you use it if elected?
I feel like I learned that I had a spiritual gift when I was a baby prosecutor in Fort Worth, Texas. We call them baby prosecutors when you're young. And I was tapped by one of the attorneys in the Crimes Against Children division to help him prepare a case for trial. Now, this was back in 2003, so we did not have cell phone evidence. We had Polaroids. And we did not have videos of anything. It was what it was. We had the words of the children. But in this case, unfortunately, we also had photos. Every time I think about this case, those photos come into my head. And it's one of the worst things that I've ever had to see. So when you ask about a spiritual gift, I know that God blessed me with the ability to look at those things, but continue to fight on for that child, to not break down and be overcome with emotion so that I could represent that child. And you got to understand, when you get older and you're a mom and you have to go home to your son when he wants to talk to you about his football game, and you've spent all day talking about or talking to a child who's been abused, you have to figure out a way to turn it off. I think God granted me a gift to be able to compartmentalize and to be able to do the hard work and then be able to continue to give back to my community, my family, my friends, and my faith. And I also think that he granted me with patience and the right temperament to be a judge of a court so that I can give everyone their day in court and always treat others the way that I would want to be treated.
All right. we will now have our closing statements, 2 minutes each side. Mr. Ghutzman, you're first.
Ladies and gentlemen, what is vitally important in this race is to choose a candidate that is experienced. Experience does matter. But let me tell you what else matters. Commitment, integrity, and trust. And you don't get the endorsement from the Houston Police Officers Union. You don't get the endorsement from the Combined Law Enforcement Associations of Texas. You don't get the endorsement from McCLEA and the Coalition of Police and Sheriffs unless you have commitment to the law. Both me and my opponent have worked for Brett Ligon. He's been our longest serving district attorney here in Montgomery County. And if you like the way that Brett Ligon has done criminal justice in this community for the last 17 years, then you are going to love me as a district court judge. It's not important that you have endorsements. It's important what those endorsements mean. And when you have endorsements from 10 police chiefs that are not political officials, that have their hand in the mud out there with their police officers protecting our rights and our freedoms and our safety every single day, and you have the consensus support of law enforcement, that means something. I am proud to have those endorsements. I am proud to be supported by law enforcement, but I am also proud to humbly tell you that this is a reluctant run for me for district court judge. I haven't always wanted to be a judge. I wanted to be a prosecutor. I wanted to defend my community. I wanted to protect the innocent. I wanted to safeguard and uphold our constitutional rights, and I have been committed to the law in doing that, and I want you to give me the opportunity to do that as a judge. When things get hard and things get tough, and we have to make hard decisions at the courthouse, your values matter. My values are your values. I practice what you preach. I humbly ask you for your vote and your support to be the next judge of the 359th District Court.
Ms. Linzer?
The most important endorsement that a candidate can receive is your vote. And that's why I'm here tonight. I would love to get your vote. I told you my experience earlier. I have had the opportunity to work as a prosecutor. It was one of my favorite jobs. I did it for 18 years. And during the time I was a prosecutor, I actually went and served as the first assistant district attorney in Grimes County, Texas. So what does that mean? It means that I was responsible for the administration of an office. I managed people. I did payroll. I did all the things that it takes to run like a small business. And when I was there, my boss became a judge. So I actually served as a district attorney. I'm the only candidate in this race that can say that I've not only been a prosecutor and worked my way up the ranks, but I've been a first assistant district attorney and I've served as a district attorney. I was also the chief of the 359th District Court. That's important. I know how this courtroom runs. And because I've been the chief prosecutor in the 359th District Court and a defense lawyer in the 359th District Court, I know both sides. I bring balance. I am not a reluctant candidate. I am a bold candidate. I want this job. I knew I wanted this job a long time ago. So when I left prosecution, I became a defense lawyer because I felt like that would make me more fair, more balanced. There are people that I respect immensely who are judges on the bench right now who have that experience. Judge Lisa Mychalk, Judge John Hafley, Judge Echo Ghutzman, Judge Patty McGinnis. They've all worked both as prosecutors and defense lawyers, and you know that they do a good job because you've voted them in year after year. Hope to earn your vote, Ann Linzer for the 359th. Thank you.
All right, let's thank both of our candidates one more time, and then we'll be taking a 10-minute break.